already been great. 25,000 wounded, over 3,000 American dead, Andy Nowacki among them. As we gather here tonight, we're reminded how remarkable, how incredibly heartwarming, how almost mind-numbingly beautiful that one young life was that has touched so many. I didn't have the honor of meeting Andy personally, but in a way I did. I think that I met Andy when I was a little boy and I'd lost my dog and I was crying, and a very kindly policeman stopped and helped me find the dog. I think I learned something about Andy from my own father. See, my dad was a volunteer fireman, and when the fire siren would sound late at night, it was on the top of the town hall in a little town where I grew up. Night would be freezing. My father would leap up, drive off into that frozen, cold night, not knowing what was ahead, not knowing what was out there. And the next day he'd go to work, often with no sleep, sometimes still covered with soot. And I asked him one time, I said, why do you do that? Come on, Dad. He said, son, we have to do what we can do to help. I think I met Andy when I shook the hand of Jimmy Doolittle, the World War II hero, who led a bomber raid on Tokyo just months after the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. The chances of returning from that mission, called the Doolittle raid, were just about zero. But somehow this little man, well over 90 when I met him, figured that it was his job to show the world what Americans are made of. And he did. I think I met Andy out in California when I was introduced to a tall and friendly man who had retired from the military many years before, but he still looked very impressive in his blue uniform. And he had sort of an unusual voice. His name was James Stewart. And he'd volunteered to leave behind a very comfortable job in order to serve his country in World War II. He became a combat pilot flying with the 8th Air Force against Germany out of England. He flew 26 missions. He was one of 3 pilots in his squadron to survive. Jimmy Stewart was a big Hollywood star when he decided it was his duty to serve. He didn't have to. Lots of rich and famous people found a way not to serve and stay home. Jimmy Stewart stayed in the reserves after the war, and he became a general. Many years later, I had the honor of serving in the same position in the same Pentagon office, and there was a picture of Jimmy Stewart on the wall. Some Americans hear a call to serve, even when others stay behind. Jimmy Stewart heard it, and so did Andy Nowacki. And I believe I met Andy during my own tour in Iraq, when a proud and bright young female sergeant briefed me on the rules of engagement of the truck convoy that was about to leave Balad. She was in charge of security, and she assured me that things would go well that day. She'd done everything she could, and her troops had confidence in her. And I think I know for sure that I saw Andy in the eyes of the children who would run smiling and waving toward our helicopter when we'd land in a village, because they knew that we'd have candy and stuffed animals and soccer balls for them. And those pictures of Andy with the Iraqi kids remind us that in all of history, ladies and gentlemen, all of history, American soldiers and Marines are the only warriors that children have run to rather than away from. And I know darn well that I met Andy as I sat in the news studio at Channel 3 reporting the story of his final return home. The videotape showed it all. He was in the countless faces of the young and the old lining the streets as the somber procession passed by. In the pride and the sorrow of his loving family, in the tears of his fellow police officers, even the chief, I could see on my studio screen the very young children who understood only that they were honoring a life that they could look up to and perhaps someday live up to. To the young recipients of the Nowacki Scholarship, now and in the future, and the first recipient is a marvelous choice, we offer congratulations, but also a reminder. The Nowacki Scholarship is not a free ride. It comes with a heavy load of responsibility. Some years ago, in the great Steven Spielberg film Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks played an American soldier in World War II who gives up his comfort and his safety, and in the end his life, to serve his country. And his last words are to Private Ryan, a young man for whom so much had been sacrificed and so many lives had been lost. And the last words to Private Ryan are, "Earn this. Earn this." Years from now, some young recipient of the Nowacki Scholarship will hear a distant but strong voice saying, "Earn this." And the voice will sound very much like Andy Nowacki's voice. And then the voice will add, "But have a really good time and have some fun." God bless you, and God bless America.